Welcome to the Stoughton's Writers Group on Stoughton Cable TV. I'm Mike Hardman, your host and founder of the Writers Group. We talk to authors about their books. We talk to would-be authors about the books they're going to write. And we also talk to support local businesses that sell books. So we cover it all. Today we're going back to 1975, and which is one of my favorite years of my lifetime. So it's going to be good with Eric Gongola, former sports writer turned author, right?
Yes.
Welcome, Eric.
Yes, thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Okay, you're my next guy up. You were at the SMU. I was at SMU like 4 years before you. You came after me. I was in St. Times like a couple of years before you. You came after me. So it's really nice to meet my next guy up in person.
Yeah.
That's good. I always followed your career. And I want to talk to you about your book. I love the title of your book, You and What Army. I think if I had a nickel back in 1970, if I said that to my friends, I wouldn't be sitting here. I'd be in, Tahiti or someplace too. Is that something you said to your friends?
Occasionally. It's funny. I had picked the title for the book, or maybe it picked itself, long before I even knew why I had picked it. And as the story progressed, my main character, Stevie, 11 years old in 1975, as I was, if he were to, he's trying to change a lot in his world, which we'll get into. I'm sorry.
The question I was going to ask is, like, when did you say that to your friends? And I mean, that was a common phrase in 1975.
Yes.
When you got to fight with somebody, the fight, you and what army is going to take me down.
And from Stevie's point of view, he wants to change the world.
Yeah.
And if he were to tell anyone that at the beginning of the book, they would say to him, "You and what army?"
Yeah.
Because you don't have it, kid.
Yeah.
As the book progresses and he finds his resolve to change his life, it's more a case of him saying to the world, "Who's going to stop me? You and what army?"
Right. So it reverses. Why 1975?
One of my favorite years.
Yeah, mine too.
Yeah. This started out, it was going to be a love letter to the 75 Red Sox and childhood in general. And I started thinking about that, and I needed a nice, safe place to go and set this book. And 1975 fit the bill, except I started thinking about it and thought, well, all I need now is a plot. And I started thinking about what else was going on in 1975. And there was so much. Vietnam was over, at least the shooting. Race relations were not great. Even where I grew up, it was on the other side of the city in New Bedford. But I didn't see a lot of it, but I knew it was happening. The clergy scandal was happening all around us, but we didn't know it. And this is right after Watergate, so I had plenty of material. The Cold War.
Yeah, it kind of gets lost. That year gets lost.
Yeah.
They look at great years in history.
Yep.
That one gets, I think it's maybe because I was 15, I was going to be a sophomore in high school, and we were really good in football. So that was, part of the thing about, there was a lot of good memories about that, but I think historically, when you look back at everything that happened that year, drugs were really becoming prevalent in society, and things that were happening too. When you went back and looked at 1975, now as a little older person, and what did you think of it? What was the reflection back of the year itself?
There was so much more happening than I knew about.
Yeah.
And I thought, well, I'm going to throw everything in the kitchen sink at Stevie, because he's going to have to deal with it. He's going to have to deal with a lot of things I didn't have to. I did deal with a dysfunctional family, which is at the root of this, but for different reasons than he does.
When you looked at it, though, when you went back to 1975, were you 11 years old again? When you were looking at it, or did you look at
yes,
with eyes like you look at it?
I'm 11 years old, way too much.
It's not a bad age to be. Was there anything that, as you were going back, to surprise you about the year and that led to the book?
Not a lot of surprises. I was reminded of a lot of things, and we love to reminisce and say, "Oh, but life was so different then." I don't know that kids were any different. I don't think they were smarter, meaner, anything. I think kids are kids, but we just dealt with what we had. We weren't so isolated. We were out in the world all the time. And I think that was a major difference then.
I think we all social. I think social media, you draw the line. Like, I don't know what 1975 would have been like with social media.
Yeah. What was trending in 1975 was what your neighbor was doing.
Right.
That's what was trending.
And the Red Sox.
Yeah.
And talk about that summer too. I know you're a sports writer turned author, but
Yes.
me too. We're both in the same rehabilitation committee. Back off thing. When you looked at that year, did you look back at all the things that happened with the Red Sox that year?
I wanted this from the beginning. I wanted this to be.
No big deal.
I wanted the Red Sox to be the touchstone for the whole story. And I went on eBay. I don't know how new eBay was at that point. I started writing this in 2012. Wrote most of it in 2012.
Wow.
A lot had happened. A lot of challenges in my life back then. And like I said, I needed that safe place to just go and sort things out and write the book I always wanted to write. And 1975 seemed about the safest place I could think of.
Is Stevie the way to get you back to 1975?
Yes.
To take you back there?
Yeah. And he'll face more than I faced, but in some ways it was a redo for me.
Okay, one of my fears about this is giving away the ending. If you do it, I don't feel as bad. So you can talk about your book, tell a little bit about your book. You have so much there, Vietnam, Survivor, and the whole thing about that. And I think that gets way overlooked when you look back at the trauma that people were in.
Did you ever hear the word Vietnam as a kid in school?
I did, because my dad was involved in the military, so that's why I'm here. But
and other than my brother having a very low draft number and nearly being drafted, I didn't hear a lot. I never heard the word in school, not once.
That's amazing. I think it was going around us. And now with social media, you would have heard it every day.
I could tell you anything about the Civil War in 1975. I knew nothing about Vietnam.
And I think that's part of, like in our world, sports. I think that's the bottom line, was it's changed so much. The social media gets underestimated in that field. Well, with the Red Sox then, what would that have been like?
Yep.
There are things like that too.
Right. We would have probably learned a lot more about those players than we wanted to.
Yeah, I think so too. I think that's the difference. And the relationship, the difference too. You said you started the book in 2012, right? Yeah. What was like the writing process when you went from being a journalist, writing every day or whatever you did, that writing went a couple times a week, whatever your schedule was, to writing something like this?
It was a lot of fun because I wanted to take a shot at writing a novel. I wasn't really worried about a book at that point. So I was just going to live the life I thought writers live. And I had the luxury of attempting it then.
I don't live that life, so tell me now.
Yeah, and
I haven't figured that one out yet.
And I don't think I'll ever be living that life again.
I mean, being a writer, like being able to be engrossed in that.
Getting up each morning, I did a lot of bike riding back then, and I'd get out just about every morning on a ride, come home, write for 2 hours, 3 hours. Sometimes I just need a break, and something would hit me at 7 o'clock, and I'd work till midnight. And this was
those guys.
When I say I was in 1975, I was in 1975.
Well, did you, with 1975, with the characters, did you get attached to the characters? You were with them for so long.
Yes, very much so. Yeah, it became, there were times you just get so deep into every aspect of it that sometimes it was my family. And let's face it, I hadn't seen my family for many years from 1975. The 1975 version of my family, but I was with these people every day. Was it hard to let them go? The end of the book? No. And you're right. I'm not going to give away the ending. Yeah, I know, but I mean, because of what happens. Yeah. Okay. I was okay letting them go. And I've had a couple of people ask me, is there a sequel? What happens next? A lot of people actually on reviews, they wanted you to write another book right away. Right. Yeah. Yep. And which is fantastic, but I just say, it sounds cliche, but they never told me what happens next. And you always hear like, well, the characters took over the story. And of course they don't, but it feels that way. They get pulled in a certain direction and you just follow them. Was the one character you fell more in love with than the other you related more to? The mom, actually, because she's so complex. There were times when in the last 10 years where I thought, do I want to rewrite this whole book from the mom's perspective? But I wasn't a 40-something-year-old woman in 1975. Yeah. I was an 11-year-old boy, and that's the story I know. So it had to be that. And I wrote it from Stevie's point of view. We only know what he knows. We might interpret things differently than he does, but we don't know any more than he does. Did you go back and interpret things that when you were they happened when you were 11 years old? Did you do that through Stevie's eyes? You went back, okay, that's what he's thinking, and that was what I was thinking at the time? Yes, not specifically, no specific incidents, but in general. Like I said, in a nutshell, if you were to ask me what the book is about, I would say it's about the boy who doesn't cry wolf because he's desperate to be the hero of his own story. And there are reasons for that, including his dad and his big brother bearing the emotional and physical scars of 2 wars, and his mom, being the breadwinner of the family, carries a chip on her shoulder that weighs on everybody. And so he just wants to find a cause. He thinks he does. And he says, oh, now I can fix everything. He just wants control.
But you're rooting for
something.
You're rooting for him in the book.
Yeah.
You're rooting for him. It always goes back to Cops and Robbers, kind of like writing-wise. And
yeah.
He's the hero. But your other characters were so complex.
Yeah.
How did you get into them being so complex? And how did you keep the integrity of the character through the book where they didn't do something off script?
Oh, good question. You have to ask my brain.
Hello, brain.
It's wild to think about, right? Yeah. It's like, oh, you have control over these people.
You really do.
But, once you start forming that full character.
But in the book, you took them where you wanted them to go, though.
Yes.
You as a puppet master. Sort of.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if anything started veering too much toward cliche, I would veer away.
How did you storybook your characters? Did you sit and have note cards? Or?
I had a whole cork board with index cards because I read that somewhere, and it worked for a while. It worked for the most part. I color-coded all of the main characters, and as I wrote it, I'll get back to that in a second because that was interesting. But as I wrote it, I would just log each chapter in color. And there were times when I noticed, where'd that character go? Where'd that color go? I've lost that character. They haven't been around in 3 chapters. Yeah. I think I need to rewind. And the interesting part, coming up as a journalist, and I watched your interview with Maureen Boyle, and it really hit home about, I loved what she said about, and she was at the Stoughton Times when I was there. I was a kid in the sports department, and she was the big-time cops reporter. I loved what she said about, there's no, I don't feel like writing today. When you've been a journalist, that's the job. Yeah. You sit down and write. It doesn't, nobody cares if you feel like writing that day.
Yeah.
I love that. But from my point of view, I try to, at least the first draft, write it as an old-time serial. Make believe it's 100 years ago. Mm-hmm. They're printing fiction in newspapers. And here, sit down today, write a chapter or part of a chapter. And because this is going to be in print tomorrow.
So you took your journalism mind frame.
Yes. It was one way for one reason, because it was one way of getting things done.
Right.
And
what is a day like without writing for you? What is that like?
Back then?
No, now. To now than back then.
There are many days of no writing now because life has changed a lot.
Yeah.
And I'm 10,000 words into my next book, but that's been the case for about a year and a half. And I know I don't have the time to sit down every single day. It's going to happen soon, maybe in the fall, but I know I have to sit down every day. I have to be in that world every single day.
Because I talk about the transition from being a sports writer. We wrote on deadline all the time. We wrote a lot. That I always thought, these authors are wimps, that they can't write more than 1 book a week, a month rather. Yeah, what are they doing? Because, and I realize how difficult it is.
This stuff might be a little more carefully crafted.
Yeah, I think so.
I think it'll stand the test of time more than our coverage of high school football.
Yeah, and but Whalers, it's not going to stay around.
Right.
But I admit that was like, it was tough to get out of that mode. Like,
yes.
It was tough to get out of the 250-word mode or 500-word mode.
Yep.
How'd you find that? Like, did you find that experience?
It's funny. I've always been a bleeder from the beginning. And if I had it all to do over again, coming up as a sports writer, I would have learned how to write fast first, and then learn how to fashion it the way I wanted it. But I approached it the other way. Part of that was we were a afternoon paper when I started. So if you go back to the office at night, you have all night to write if you want.
I remember the 4:30 in the morning deadline back then.
Yeah.
Because I was there before they did the switch to computers, typewriters.
I was too.
Yeah, you were there. You had
the tail end.
You were at the tail end. I was there.
I'd love to be able to tell those stories.
I know.
People say, how old are you?
I know. You can't tell those stories. Have you thought about doing a book on those journalism days?
Maybe. I don't know. There was a peek into it in this book. and it just didn't fit. And I took it out because there were many things that would sneak their way in. Like, oh, I know about that. I'll put that in this book, and it didn't fit.
I always get questions about sports writers. I always get why do you write a sports book first?
Because I've seen enough of it and written enough of it.
I thought it was typecast.
Yeah.
I thought I can do more than this.
Yeah.
My book happened because I got sick, so I didn't have any choice to write a book. But on my list of books to write, sports is I think 2032 or something.
Yep.
And it's a business sports book, which is nothing I thought I ever would write.
Right.
But it's I don't think so. Was that freedom kind of too, the break away?
Yes, and it's really getting back to what I wanted to do in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
My mom was a librarian. I fell in love with books at the library she worked at in New Bedford, the Wilkes branch, which now has a copy of my book, which means a lot.
That must be so cool.
Right.
I think I started my book is in the Stoughton Library, and I did the geeky thing. I took photos of it on the shelf and moved it around. Did you do that?
I've done that in books.
Okay.
I haven't been back to this library, but when I pitched it to several libraries. Maybe 20 have it right now.
That's awesome.
So that's one of the most gratifying things is to unapologetically go onto a library's website and see my book checked out.
Do you do the checkout thing? Make sure it's checked out.
I don't check it out.
No, I know I don't do the checkout. Check it out myself, but I go and look and make sure it's checked out.
Yeah, I do that.
Okay, good. Thank God. I'm not the only one doing that.
Why not? Why not? We wrote a book.
What was it like to see a book in a bookstore? What was that experience like?
It was pretty cool. The first bookstore to take it was Tickham's in Sandwich, and I'd say 5 bookstores have it now.
That's good,
including Book Love in Plymouth, and I've had a few signings, so it's a new experience.
What's that been like?
It's odd. I mean, you're part salesman, right?
Yeah.
And I've spent 30 years asking the questions and just playing it.
This must be really uncomfortable for you. I always find that
right
too.
now.
It's
fairly uncomfortable.
I have to do one coming up, and I'm going. I do these shows like tape 3 a day, and I do podcasts. I go nothing talking.
Yeah.
But answering the questions, you kind of like get all nervous.
It's different.
I want making you feel
it's
comfortable.
Different. You are.
Okay.
You are. I'm a lot more comfortable than I was 15 minutes ago.
Oh, great. Okay. But what was the difference between seeing your name in the New Bedford Times? Because I mean, that's your hometown newspaper. That's kind of a big deal.
It was really cool.
And then seeing a book. What was the difference? Was it?
I go back to the fact that I was 16 when I walked into the newsroom in New Bedford and started covering high school games.
Yeah.
And thought, oh, well, here's one way to write.
Yeah.
And
get paid too.
And
not
facts,
much.
Not much, but facts paid a little better than fiction.
Yeah.
So
true.
So I went that route, and I loved it. And I did a lot of nostalgic columns. We had a column called Remember When, and I got in on that quite a bit in the first few years. And that was a big deal because I grew up in New Bedford. I'm talking to all these sports legends in New Bedford, calling most of them Mr. or Mrs. And the other part was my parents were still around to see it. Everyone I ever knew nearly was around to see all this.
That's a great experience because when I did it, I came from Brockton and I didn't have the connections to it. So me, I was like, oh yeah, great. And I always admired the people like you that grew up there and get to see their name.
It was a lot of fun, and yeah, it was big fish in a small pond, and that's fine. I worked hard at it.
Warrior Cover was a good place to learn too. I thought it was good. I look back at those days that a lot of people writing a book now. I used that experience and that they taught get the facts up quicker.
Yeah,
and the whole environment of it too.
Yep.
I mean, I was called names because I was a kid from the outside, a college kid.
Yeah.
So it was a difference. So I learned to be in that environment too.
Right.
But when you go from being a journalist to an author, you have to go places you don't go before. Was that difficult to do?
I've talked about this a few times because it comes up a lot. When I first started writing this novel, Stevie was watching everything happening because as a journalist, I was trained to be the observer, not an active participant. And again, I don't know how many drafts I wrote. I don't write that way. I don't write the entire book and say, okay, no, I'm going to rewrite it again a little differently. I tweak constantly. I move some things around.
Are you a Grammarly spell checker guy?
Yes. I check everything as I go because, again, as a journalist, this has to be ready in a half hour. I better check now because I'm not going to have time in 20 minutes.
I find myself getting in fights with Grammarly way too much. Like,
Yeah.
I have a problem with Grammarly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm more concerned with the spelling.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Spell check is great too.
Yeah.
But what do you think about ChatGPT writing and all that as a writer, go in that area where people with that skill?
Boy, it's strange. Some of it's actually good, but unless you know the subject, and then there's a good chance it will be wrong.
Mm-hmm.
You throw some facts at ChatGPT, and yeah, it might spit out something that's completely false.
Is it harder for us, do you think, that where we grew up, where we sat at the typewriter and typed it, gave it somebody to paste it, and they could use the glue and things like that, to go to that next level? Like you said, you're a marketer now. You're a technology person too. When you write a book, you have to do all the social media. Is that difficult to make that transition? Where
it's not what you really want to spend your time doing, but it has to be done.
Mm-hmm.
Some people love running, and running is a very solitary activity.
Mm-hmm.
But if you want to measure yourself, you have to go run with 3,000 other people to see how good you are at it.
What's been like the reaction to the book? I can imagine. Like, I know what I felt. I don't want to give what I felt.
Yep.
I felt like I want to. You want to. These characters are gripping me.
Mm-hmm.
And you want to. Somebody you want to hug, like Stevie.
Yeah.
Beginning, because you're a 11-year-old kid.
Yeah.
And you want to say, okay, things are going to be better, but don't press yourself that much, kind of thing. But when you get the reactions of people, what do they say about the book?
Many appreciate the overall story, but I get more comments about, wow, you took me right back to 1975. I was a kid again, which is really cool.
Yeah.
I mean, I should have anticipated that if I did my job right, because it is set in 1975. And yeah, it's, I call it a boomer blunderland. And sure, we all remember it. But I've always remembered what it's like to be a kid.
Like you said, you're 11 years old still today, which is a wonderful thing.
Yeah.
That's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
To do that too.
So yeah, I'll see myself in pictures or on television and say, "Who's that?"
Did you look at pictures of yourself when you were writing the book, like back at that time?
Not really. The father in the book looks a little like my dad. And there's so much I could talk about this all day, and I know we have a few minutes.
No, we're right.
But it's so funny. Like Stephen King, one of a bit of his advice to writers is descriptions should start in the mind of the writer, but it has to end in the mind of the reader. And yes, so I purposely and honestly, you're reading other writers and see how they do it. How else do you learn? Just small details of descriptions, and let the reader decide what that person looks like.
I do this the opposite. Like I'm writing a book, my third book will come out, is about 1940s Boston.
Mm-hmm.
So on my wall, there's pictures of 1940s Boston. Mm-hmm. I spend time in the GBH files. I'm fascinated by trains driving into the city. I don't know why, but because they look the same as they do now. But I do the visual part of it. Like I have to see the person in my mind. You can do it. I have to see the person before I can write about it.
I can see the person for sure, but I don't think I need to describe them completely.
Mm-hmm.
I find I don't want to stop the story and start describing people. I'll drop it in. I treat the whole thing, ironically, it's the summer of Jaws. I treat the story like a shark. I don't know if it's true or not. I've never looked it up. Maybe I should Google it. That the shark dies if it stops.
Yeah.
Sharks cannot stop. So I treat the story like a shark. I never stop.
That's interesting.
I just do it all on the fly.
That's bad.
I think that might reflect growing up on television.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't know, because I'll pick up a novel from the 19th century and say, okay, this is really great storytelling, but
you grew up in New Bedford. It's like the history of writing. I mean,
it was pretty cool.
You can't walk the street corner and not see somebody who's there.
Yeah.
Some writer lived there. Some book was written in places now. It's probably something different, but probably the time was a tavern.
Yeah.
You grew up around.
There's so much of that. The inciting incident, it did not happen on my street, but they used to have colonial reenactments down my street because that's the way the British came. Yeah.
Does that help you where you were at the spot when you're writing the book? You're there, just not.
Yeah, and
a lot different time frame. But
yes, it helped a lot. But I made a point to not make this New Bedford because I didn't want people getting caught up in, hey, I don't think that store was on that corner.
Right.
So I made it any Milltown, New England. and so that anyone can relate to it.
But I felt like I was in New Bedford, to be honest.
Well, good. If you're not New Bedford, you're going to feel like hopefully someone from somewhere else.
Yeah,
like
I know.
There.
It just felt that way too, a bit too. I want to go back to a couple minutes left, but I want to go back to learning about. You said your mother was a librarian. So when did the first time you went to the library? What do you remember about that?
Well, she started at the library the year I went to kindergarten, so we're talking 1968.
So you went 1968.
So we would go all the time.
That's my favorite memory of childhood. Is my mother, putting me at 4 years old in the stroller and going up and getting books out. And it makes a difference in your life. I always tell people that's what I'm kind of doing the show in a way. Is big reason why we're doing the show is to get people to read and experience the joy of reading.
Yeah.
Like you took me, I read your book yesterday. I read your book, and I'm back in 1975. So that's a gift to do that, to try to convey it. That's what we want to do. So I'm glad you came on because people are going to relate to 1975 a lot more than 1875.
Right.
And talk about that too, and the thing. But when did you know you want to be a writer? What was that like?
I knew I wanted, as a kid, I knew I wanted to be one of those people who wrote books.
Right.
I didn't know if I wanted to be a writer. A good sign was in junior high when an English teacher accused me of copying a story from somewhere. And I thought, I guess it's pretty
victory from plagiarism.
That's a good sign. So, But and from there, I heard about high school kids were covering games for the local paper. So like, I should try that. I loved history, but again, a chance to write was better than.
I always think of journalists. I cut you open and I check your blood type. It would be ink.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, I don't think we're creating some laboratory way out there that does that too. Yeah. What's your next book about?
It is a dual timeline.
Mm-hmm.
Part of it takes place about 100 years ago, and the rest will be in the present.
Mm-hmm.
It's a story of family vendetta and how we're haunted by our own past and our family's own past. We can never actually escape the past. I'm being very vague because I'm still working out.
I know.
Much like this book, I know exactly how it starts and exactly how it ends.
Yeah, you have a few readers are going to be knocking on your door, though. Just don't go out too soon. They're going to be going. They're going to be crazy.
Yeah.
We've got like a little short time. I want to give if I told you, what advice would you give to somebody that wanted to start a book? What's the quick?
Unlike what I'm doing right now, I would say write every day.
Yeah.
But find someone you love to read and outline that book. You don't have to outline it from start to finish. If you're great at description, find out why. Find out why you gravitate to a description. And don't always lean on the same things. Try to branch out. If you think you're not so good at certain things, outline that in a book. Or outline the pacing of a book. Figure out where do certain things happen. Where are those story arcs happening?
Well, I appreciate you coming on, Eric, coming all the way down here. Read this book. It's very good. And you'll go back in 1975. Thank you, and thanks to Stoughton Cable and everyone for joining in. We'll see you next time. Thank you.